1. This happened last year at the beginning of autumn, 2016. I am a short Italian girl, not intimidating at all, also pretty friendly. I was 18 years old and used to have long walks up the hills of my town. I usually wore gym clothes, had earphones in my ear, and a small backpack on my shoulders. The walk followed a simple course. Up on a hill for a while, then back to the center of town and back home. It was late afternoon and I was walking down the hill quite fast, getting closer to a small building about 200 meters far from the center. The building was a small house used for parties or different events, but also used as a calm place to stay in, since it was far from the main road. Right next to the building there was a lovely playground with few benches on its corner. I've always seen a group of people sitting there, chatting or just playing card games. There are 2 different dirt roads you can choose from to go past the house. One on the right, near the playground, and one on the left, behind the building and a little flyover and between some trees. Since I didn't want to take the usual and most obvious right road, I decided to go left and take some pictures of the trees. Very colorful during that season. I was halfway across when I felt the need to lower the volume of my headphones. Someone was trying to get my attention. "Hey you!" I turned around and I noticed a group of guys walking towards me, one of them waving at me and telling me to come closer to them. Curious and kinda worried at the same time, I stood still, holding the earphones in my hand. The guys approached me, smiling. They seemed pretty nice and friendly at first. "Hey sweetie, how's it going? Having a walk?" We talked for a few minutes, small talk and fake information coming from my side. After a bit, I tried to continue my walk after I said goodbye. I just didn't want to keep the conversation with them. "Would you like to have a drink with us? There's a party inside, you should join us." I turned around again, the same guy, tall, fit, dark, short hair, and dark eyes. Got closer to me and his smile was kinda weird. I mean, it seemed just fake and quite creepy. I gotta go now, it's getting late for me," I said. He kept following me, insisting for me to join them. Then I realized the building was just empty, and there was no music playing at all. The windows were open and no sound was coming out from there. I politely declined again, repeating to him my walk took me too much time, and I needed to go back home. "Your loss," he said, as he looked at me almost disappointed, and seemed kinda pissed that I refused his nice offer. He went back to the other 2 guys and I put my earphones on, not starting the music again though, since I wanted to wait till they were gone, or at least far enough to make me feel 100% comfortable. As soon as they saw me put my earphones on, they started talking, while I was walking away. Then I heard footsteps behind me. They had started following me. I didn't dare to turn around, so I walked quicker to keep a decent distance from them. I panicked though, after 1 minute or so. The volume was completely turned down and I could hear every single thing they were saying. The leader of the trio seemed to give the others orders of some sort. And while I tried to focus on his words, the adrenaline was released inside my body. As soon as I heard what he was saying. "Get her." I was scared now, and the only thing I thought to do was running, so I sprinted and ran as fast as I could, trying to reach the main road in time. Heavy and quick footsteps right behind me confirmed I didn't overhear their chat. I reached the little wall next to the road and I climbed it to lose them. It worked. They stopped chasing me. Maybe they thought it wasn't worth it. I was able to reach the main road, panting and shaking. I don't know why they wanted me to follow them. Now that I think about it, I was lucky and smart enough not to immediately turn the music volume up. They would have probably grabbed me and dragged me inside the house. I never warned the police about the event, and I think I should have done something. But as soon as I got home, I just wanted to forget and go back to normal life. Just put it all behind me. 1 week after the event. The memory came up while talking with a guy friend who usually goes to the playground and meets some of his friends. John, my friend, was a little taller than me but muscular and way more intimidating than me. As soon as I told him about my experience, he got mad for what had happened and promised me he would have took care of those guys if they ever showed up. I avoided that place till a few days ago. I've never seen them around that place again. 2. I'm a 20-year-old woman that lives on the West Coast, and I have lived here for about 8 months. This happened within the first month of my time here. In most bigger cities, restaurants are partnered with cell phone delivery apps. The delivery people for these apps tend to frequent the restaurant in which I am working. Typically, I see the same 5 to 10 delivery people multiple times a day, and get to know them pretty well. Except one. He only came in while we were busy and always tried to talk, and, in annoyance, I would ignore him. One day this man came by to pick up multiple orders. I gave him the orders and turned around, barely acknowledging him. That is when the questions began. I should have seen the warning signs then. "You don't even want to say hi to me?" He said to me with a smile, the kind of smile you give someone that you know well, the kind of smile that is meant for friends. The way he looked at me threw me off, but I gave him a small smile and said that I hoped he had a good night. He rolled his eyes and went to put his deliveries in his car. He came back with his phone and told me to put my number in it. I politely declined his offer and began to turn around. "You won't regret it, Charlene," he said, gently pushing his phone into my hands. At this point I was extremely uncomfortable, but the restaurant was empty besides the chef in the back of the kitchen, and I couldn't get his attention. So I set his phone down and did what any person would. I wrote down a fake number on a napkin. To my own horror, he picked up the number and began to dial it into his phone. He put it up to his ear and rolled his eyes in frustration. "Just give me your real number." I then wrote down my real number but with no area code, hoping that he would be okay with that. And I had just moved here recently, so my area code would not be easy to figure out, without knowing of my life before the West Coast. "Charlene, you didn't write down your area code." My heart started beating quickly. I had never given him my real name, and I never wore a name tag. "Pick up the phone when I call, and if you answer, I will leave the restaurant." I could tell he meant it. He would not leave until I proved to him that it was my number. He called, the phone vibrated in my pocket, and I knew that I had made the worst decision of my life. I showed him the phone and he left. I loved my job, but the worst part was the distance. I always took the bus home and had to make multiple switches in order to get home, and it was typically an hour commute. This was not a problem during the day, but by the time I got off work, around 11, it was risky. About halfway through my commute, I receive a call from a number I did not recognize. I answered out of courtesy, and partly because I thought it was someone asking me to cover their shift the next day. But the voice said, "Oh, babe, you didn't have to take the bus home. I would have driven you home. Someone as pretty as you should never have to do that. What are you doing tonight? Want to come over? My friends are with me. We could come to your place." I quickly hung up the phone. When the bus reached the stop about a block from my home, I was lucky enough to see that my neighbor had been sitting near the front of the bus, and was able to walk with him back into our apartment building. For the next 2 weeks, I got 10 calls a day and about 15 texts, all of which were increasingly strange. Most of them were just about how pretty he thought I was. But then they began to make me fearful. He began to offer me money and tell me that he could find me a better job more suited to a girl like me. He started coming in more for deliveries, and finally I told my boss what was happening. The next time he came in, my boss pulled him to the side and warned him that behavior like this was not okay, and that if he did it again, he would report him to the delivery company that he was working for. He stopped it for about a month. At this point, I had picked up a morning job too, and would be walking to work around 5:30 a.m., while it was still extremely dark. On the particular morning, I was so paranoid that I did not turn on music and was looking for people behind me. That is when I saw him. He walked up next to me as if we were friends and put his arm around my shoulder. Every alarm in my body was telling me to run. "I've been waiting for you. Let me walk you to work. You won't regret it." How did he know that I had gotten another job too? I declined, telling him that I needed to do homework, and turned into the cafe that was closest to us. I made them aware of the issue, and they allowed me to stay inside until he finally decided to leave the area. That's when the private calling began. The frequency of the calls began to pick up, and he would leave angry messages. In my mind, what I did next was a good idea, but I quickly learned how wrong I was. Next time he called, I answered the phone. When he asked why I never made an effort to talk to him anymore, like I ever had, I told him that I was gay, and that it wasn't anything wrong with him, he just wasn't my type. Just give me a chance. I can change you. You've just never had a man treat you right. You won't regret it. Things stopped for a while. There was a text here and there, but about a month ago, I began to get weird comments on my Instagram posts. "Wow, so beautiful. There are so many things I would do to you. Stop ignoring me. I am trying to treat you right." And many other comments of this nature. I blocked him, and he would make a new one. He would then call me again a few times and leave a few long messages that I would try to ignore. I stopped taking the bus, and I made sure everyone between my friends and family were aware of the situation, just in case anything happened to me. Then, on Valentine's Day, he showed up again, at 3 a.m. outside of my window. I woke up to my name being screamed outside of my window. You see, I live on a busy street, and my bedroom has large windows. I had them open because of how beautiful the night had been before I fell asleep. I turned over, without lifting my head, as I knew he would never be able to see me. About every 5 minutes he would scream my name, and say that he could see me and he knew I was there. He told me to come down and talk to him, and, right before he left, he said one more thing that I almost didn't hear. "You won't regret it." Edit. For the people asking about what happened after that night, so far nothing. But I have begun to take the necessary steps to keep myself protected. New apartment, pepper spray a dog. Telling the authorities only goes so far, as he has never really threatened me with violence or caused me physical harm. 3. The following story contains themes of animal cruelty. This took place about 5 years ago when I was 23 years old. At this time in my life, I was pretty out of control. I didn't know I was bipolar, so I put myself in situations that were not the best. I had a boyfriend of 3 years that was off and on every other week. He was straight edge and pretty boring. Whenever I wanted to go out, it was always a fight. He would cry because I would go out to the bar, and then by the next week we were back together. One night I was leaving the salon, I'm a hairdresser, and decided I wanted to go out. It was a long week and I needed to blow off some steam. So I called up my best friend Nicole and told her to meet me at a bar near my house. This bar was known for its really strong drinks and was full of townies. We never went there before, but I figured why not try it out because of how close it was. So that night I got in a huge fight with my boyfriend and we broke up again. This time was different though. I had enough of the back and forth and really decided to move on. When Nicole and I got to the bar, we looked around. It was a lot of people in groups, and they definitely noticed us. We didn't care, and ended up getting pretty messed up. There was a deck where everyone would smoke on, so we decided to go out there and try to meet people. I remember the moment I saw him. He was coming up the stairs, and instantly I was attracted to him. It was almost like my breath was taken away as soon as we locked eyes. There was something different about him. I couldn't figure out what it was. I needed to get to know him, so I introduced myself and the rest was history. At the end of the night, Matt asked me and Nicole if we wanted to come over. He had a friend with him, so I figured we could keep partying. Also, his house was only a mile up the road. We hit it off really fast. I started going to his house after that night almost every day. Before I knew it, I was practically moved in. He lived in an in-law style apartment with his grandparents on the top floor. They were fine with me just moving in, and that's when things started to turn. It was slow, but before I knew it, he was telling me what to do and what to wear. One day after work, he freaked out on me for coming home late, and ended up calling me just some fat bitch. I know what you're thinking. Why didn't I leave? I'm not sure. But between all the verbal abuse that started, I went from skinny to unhealthy looking. After about 4 months of verbal abuse, I decided to pack my things and move back home. Matt walked in the door as soon as I had my bags packed and freaked out. He said if I left him, he would kill himself. I thought he was joking, so I continued to get my stuff together. This is when he went into the kitchen and took a knife out. He started to cut himself right in front of me. He was screaming, "I dare you to leave." I was scared, and not sure what the hell to do. His grandmother even came down to try to calm him. I think she knew there was something wrong with him, but continued to deny it. I found this so bizarre, but I stayed. I think Matt realized I couldn't take it anymore, so one day after work, he bought me a cat. I think he thought if he bought me an animal, because I loved animals, I wouldn't leave. Well, a week after he bought the cat, I was stuck at the salon late doing hair. My phone had 50 missed calls and frantic texts. When I got home, I saw poop all over the bed. The cat was nowhere to be found, and Matt was in the shower freaking out and talking to himself. I asked him what the hell was going on. He said the cat pooped on the bed and he locked it in my dresser. I was so freaked out and afraid I didn't know what to do. I opened the dresser and the cat was covered in piss and poop. The once friendly cat was shaking and scared. I knew something happened in my gut. I knew he did something to that cat. This cat was well behaved and the mess on the bed looked like something struggled, not just an accident. After that point, the cat would not go near him and run if he came close to him. I decided that night I had to leave. I was scared, but we had a trip to go to the lake to see my grandfather that weekend. I really needed to go on the trip because he had cancer, and this would probably be the last summer I saw him. I decided after that trip I would pack up, and that will be the end. I even made sure my mom knew I was coming back home. I know Matt could tell something was wrong because the whole ride up felt tense and uneasy. When we got to the lake, he freaked out because it was in the middle of nowhere. I told him there was a town nearby that had bars and a beach. We decided to go there for our first night. Up to this point, Matt never drank in front of me, probably because of his issues he tried to hide. But that night he ended up getting hammered. I remember we were sitting on the bench and he said, "You know what happened to my ex-girlfriend's cat when she dumped me?" He said he killed it and then left it in a trash bag. Then he said his grandparents knew, because you can tell when a dead body's in a bag. I legit was freaking out. Now it's confirmed he is a sociopath and I'm in the middle of nowhere with him. I tried not to overreact, but I wanted to get back to my grandfather's house, and fast. We got in the car and I started to drive towards the cabin. Matt grabbed the wheel and said, "I know you're gonna dump me, you bitch." As he said this, he jerked the wheel so hard the car went out of control. I hit an old rock fence and my tire went flat. I ran out to see the damage and Matt got out of the car as well. He proceeded to tell me if he killed me, no one would hear me scream. I was scared and trying to back away from him. He then lunged at me and started to punch my face. He kept hitting me and kicking me until I fell in the street. I screamed help as loud as I could. I knew he was going to kill me. Thank God there was a motel up the road and someone yelled out that they were coming and to hold on. This spooked Matt, so he took off into the dark, dense woods. I was taken to the hospital that night with a broken nose and leg plus a concussion. Matt was found by police dogs hiding deep in the woods. After I was well enough to get out of the hospital, I pressed charges. I had to leave my family's house because he continued to stalk me and get arrested. He would leave letters on my door saying it wasn't over and he wanted to marry me. I had to leave my job because he would call and harass me. Everyone I worked with was freaked out. So I decided to quit. Every time there was contact, he would go to jail. Over a span of 6 months, he went to jail 5 times. Eventually our trial came up. He knew he was guilty, and my lawyer said he was definitely going to do a lot of time. He would also need to pay all of my medical expenses. When it was time for court, he never showed up. Everyone in my family was confused. Until my lawyer said we will not be having a trial today. I guess the night before Matt freaked out and decided to kill himself. I'm still not sure how, nor do I care. He couldn't face jail or seeing me again. I remember he always said jail scared him the most. It's sad, but I felt relieved in a weird way. I'm glad he can't hurt anyone or anything ever again. So Matt, let's not ever meet again. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories, episode 196. Thank you very much to everyone who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Well, here we are on Monday once again, so let's think what we have for the rest of the week. Well, tomorrow should be subscriber stories, I think we're okay there. Wednesday we'll have more scary stories. I'm not sure about Thursday, I might do something different on a Thursday than a glitch video this week. And the same with Saturday, I'm not 100% sold on doing a TIFU this week. So we'll see what happens, what I can come up with. Although we should be sorted for paranormal stories on Friday, I've actually got plenty of those to be getting on with just now. You know, I don't know what is actually happening with Let's Not Meet right now. I usually stop in there once a week, have a look through, and generally there'll be lots and lots of stories for me to choose from and send messages out to people. And I swear to God, from the last time I checked, and it's been over a week, maybe closer to 2 weeks actually. Well, yeah, closer, I think about 12 days, so closer to 2 weeks. There were like 3 stories that I could contact people for. So I don't know if there's an issue there, because usually there's 20, 30 long and extra long stories. Then you've got all the medium length and the short ones as well. So I don't know if maybe they've had a massive purge, if there's trouble with uploading, or if it's just been a really bad couple of weeks. But there was very little new content being posted. I mean, I'm looking at the things being posted right now, and it seems to be that total they're getting 1 or 2 news stories posted per day, whereas you used to get a lot more than that. So I'm not sure if it's an issue, if there's a problem with people uploading stories and they're not uploading, or if the mods are just being way more picky than they used to be. But even then, even if they were deleting stories, you still see a lot of new ones getting posted before they delete them, so I don't think it's that. It's odd and a little concerning, but thankfully I've got a few weeks worth of stories built up to work off of. It's just I hope they get that fixed soon, because it could become a problem after those couple of weeks. So I've got no idea what the issue is, but there certainly does seem to be an issue. Hopefully it's fixed soon. Okay, and with that I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.